Pompey Sound. Updates, the latest from Fratton Park, on the hour, every hour. Fueled by Piglet's Pantry. Click pigletspantry.co.uk to get your fill.
John Mousinho talking about the Reading game. The focus over the past few weeks has definitely been on fitness and making sure everyone comes through these games unscathed. We want to come away physically better from each of them, and we've certainly ticked all those boxes so far. The results so far have been great, although they're obviously not as important at this stage of the season. The next part is performances, and we've had some good patches, some poor patches, and everything in between. This game against Reading was more about the former, although we know it's only going to get harder from here. There were some nice patterns of play and Josh Murphy was really lively, while Callum also looked strong on the other flank. It's always good to see Colby get on the scoresheet, and I think we're in a good spot with a couple of weeks to go. Ibain Boa came on in the second half to make his first appearance in a Pompey shirt almost a year after signing, having fought back from a serious knee injury. Mousinho said, "It was really good to see him for half an hour after Connor Shaughnessy went down with some cramp. It was always the plan to get him on the pitch at some point, and this is another small step in what has been a long road to recovery for Iban."
Wise words as ever. On the business of coming through the games, the friendlies, unscathed, it was a slightly scary 10 minutes with Colby Bishop on the deck in the Reading penalty area, having copped an elbow. Don't know whether it was to the side of his head. It could have been his face. He was down, face down, on the turf for a full 10 minutes, treated by two physios, medicos, whatever. And there was a concern. We didn't see anybody warming up. We didn't see who was the reserve keeper that day. It was Killip, wasn't it? We didn't see him warming up. I think Alfie Whiteman was there as well, but I don't know who got changed and who was on the bench. We didn't get that information from the, and I will bang on about this for a moment, fairly paltry service that was supplied. We watched in the studio, and £5 is £5. And we expected a little bit more information than we got. Just the score on the screen in the first half would have been handy. They sorted that one out at half time. But on the whole, a pretty poor effort compared to what Pompey turned in. And by the way, I've been looking at the reaction of Reading newspapers, websites and forums, and none of them pay any tribute to the way Pompey played. And I guess this is kind of normal. They're just focusing on themselves, and their argument is that they were terrible. They were absolutely useless, rock bottom. All sorts of comments which may be true, but surely a word about the fact that Pompey are a tier higher than Reading and seemed to have the right sort of commitment to the game. They were holding off most of the 50-50s, especially the aerial ones, going to win it if possible, but preferably with nobody else around them to jump with them. Colby Bishop had no option other than to jump for the ball in the penalty area when their centre-half gave him a whack, quite accidental, I'm sure. But he wanted to make his presence felt, and he certainly did make it felt. So, we could have come away with an injury, which would, with 2 weeks to go, could have been a worry. But Pompey had the right sort of commitment. They didn't, it seemed to me, knacker themselves. They were moving fast when it was necessary to move fast, and they were strolling when that was all you had to do. They let the ball do the work, which again is what you want in a championship match, never mind about a friendly with a team a league below you. So Pompey paced themselves very well, and they took their goals very well. They made their goals really well. Mick Robertson is saying elsewhere on Pompey Sound that it could have been 8, and it really could have been 8. Perhaps the Reading defence was a bit porous or lazy or confused. But Pompey nevertheless had the job to do to take advantage of it. And although a couple of our efforts didn't work out, Swift should have scored. I think Colby Bishop could have had another 2 quite easily on his day, and it just wasn't his day on those 2 occasions. But he got there, he got the ball, he just put it wide and high on each of those 2 occasions. However, Pompey created the chances. They lorded it over Reading. They played really well. But Reading, they have turned it all into some kind of morbid post-mortem about their lack of prospects, their lack of talent, their lack of this, their lack of that. Woe is them. And, I think they're gearing themselves up to a relegation battle. So, who would you rather be with 2 weeks to go? Exactly.
According to a number of venerable sources, Reading's 26-year-old winger Harvey Nibbs is on his way out of the door, with just a few minor details to be tidied up on the deal. The speculation as to his destination has solidified around 3 clubs: Sheffield United, Oxford United, and Pompey. Nibbs did not play in the friendly Pompey versus Reading because with the deal almost done, Reading didn't want to risk their asset being injured or having a stinker. We have scoured all the media material relating to transfers in and out of Sheffield United and found absolutely zero mention of Nibbs. Instead, according to journalist Alan Nixon, Sheffield United are winning the race for a different winger, Oliver Antman, who plays for Go Ahead Eagles in Holland. They are reported to be demanding €6 million, which translates as £5.2 million for Antman. The Finn has had an impressive season after starting quietly on his arrival in Dutch football, with no fewer than 15 assists in 32 appearances. If Sheffield United can't find that sort of money, they may well continue to investigate falling back on Nibbs. It's the same story over in Oxford, where there is not a single mention of any interest in Nibbs, who will be looking at Oxford as being justifiably among the favourites to be relegated. Having gone down to a League Two side in their most recent pre-season friendly, there will be those at Pompey who are saying, stand by for the arrival of Harvey Nibbs.
Of course, it's possible to read too much into press activity and fan speculation, but we had arrived 2 players, one of whom, John Swift, had been talked about for weeks, possibly months, and it had been all over the papers and all over the internet and all over the fan forums. And at the same time, more or less, arrived Luke LaRue. Who? There was nothing at all that prepared us for Luke LaRue's arrival. So, you got the devil in the deep blue sea, really. The fact that Sheffield United appear to be chasing after another guy for a lot of money, and the fact that Oxford United aren't being talked about chasing anybody, they're kind of down in the doldrums there, and we couldn't be shaping up to be facing them at a better time from our point of view. And that means that if Nibbs knows what he's about, he will recognise that he's going to have more fun at Pompey than he would at Oxford United. As for Sheffield United, he may have picked up on the fact that he is their second choice as the winger they'd like to bring in this summer, and that isn't going to appeal to him either. So, although it was slightly tongue-in-cheek that our AI newsreader said, stand by for the arrival of Harvey Nibbs, you never know. BOWATT played and he came off the pitch entire and intact, and he's been talking about how good that felt.
It's been a long time coming, but it felt great. It's good to be back on the pitch and start on a good note, playing in front of the fans. I want to thank the staff at Pompey, my teammates, and my family for supporting me during this long journey, but it's a great feeling. It's been a moment I've been waiting for a while. I've been working towards it, and it's not been an easy recovery. There's been a few ups and downs, but I've worked hard and it's a proud moment for me, and hopefully I can build on this performance today and hopefully be ready when the season starts. The leg feels good, it feels much better, and the physios have been really behind me and supporting me. I think we're in a good place with it, and it's now just a case of getting more minutes under the legs and getting ready for the first day of the season. It wasn't as smooth at the beginning with my knee, but once that pain left, physically and aerobically I felt great. I still need to get back to match speed, which is why these friendly games, especially against a good side, is good to get me prepared. My main aim is to keep my head down, keep working and get my minutes in these friendlies, and if I can be of help come the first game then great, but the team comes first, so whatever the team needs I'll be there.
Yeah, so you can hear what he's saying there to the manager. I'll be available on Saturday. It's in both our interests if you give me at least a run out against the Dutch, so that I can just sharpen myself up a little bit and be available if needed. Because obviously it's unlikely that he's going to shift Regan Paul or Connor Shaughnessy simply because they are nailed on. Both of them absolutely nailed on. And of course he's got Matthews in front of him as well. So he knows the score. and he wants to play, and he must be so relieved, although is there still a tiny shred of doubt in his mind that he mustn't do whatever it is he did on the training ground before he'd had a chance to put on a blue shirt, except the one he wore when he was unveiled to the press as a new Pompey signing. Do you remember? He put the blue shirt on for that, took it off again, went to training and did his knee in with nobody around him, trying to whack it as hard as he could and score a goal on the training ground. I don't know, the level of fitness that these players have is so great these days that that sort of thing can happen. It never used to, did it? And it has to do with how finely honed they are and the amount of strength that they have in their muscle tissue, which is greater than it ever was, compared to the strength in their bones and their ligaments and their tendons, which are no different from how they've been in human beings for the last, million years. That's the difference. These men's muscles are now so finely tuned, they're almost too strong for the actual infrastructure of their body, the skeleton, the ligaments and the tendons, which are barely meat, aren't they? Ligaments and tendons. Cartilage. Made of collagen, I understand. You have to, if you're trying to keep up with modern football, you've got to become a bit of a doctor. You've got to be doctor. You've got to be Dr. Google to keep up with it all. But he's back. He looks an imposing figure. He moves well. He very upright stance he takes, and he dominates the area that he's in. He dominates the bit of grass he's standing on and the rest of it for about 6 feet around. So we want players like that, because we're going to come up against 6'4" centre forwards who are going to need to be taken on and given as good as they give. And he looks as though he's got the kind of physical attributes to be able to do that. So welcome to... He must have hit rock bottom. Not that long a time ago, he was with a Premier League club and had every right to believe that one day he might be a regular Premier League footballer. Maybe it began to dawn on him that it was going to be just a tiny leap too far for him at the stage in his career and his life that he was at. And so he was quite happy to come to a championship side, which people are now increasingly thinking of as being a decent, possibly even top-ish championship club. And he did. And within 10 seconds, he was out for a year. What did he do? I mean, did he move down here? Or did he work it out so that he only had to see the physios once or twice a week, so he would travel down and live where he had been living when he was with Fulham, was it? Fulham? Yeah, Fulham. Don't know. These are the complexities of being a professional footballer that the fan often forgets about, or even if they do think about it, can't get the answers. It's none of our business, the private lives, the personal lives of footballers. We always say that on Pompey Sound. But if it's part and parcel of the way the club is performing on the pitch, then there's an element of entitlement about getting some of the details so that we can satisfy ourselves that everything is being done for the player and therefore our club, the club we see as our club. Anyway, BOWATT is back, and so we are now full strength in the number 5s department. I almost hesitated to say that because you mustn't tempt fate. Here's John Messino on the 2 trialists who are currently with Portsmouth, Ferguson, but first of all, goalkeeper Alfie Whiteman.
We wanted to get 90 minutes into Nico at Reading, but we brought Ben along, and Alfie too. I don't know what his future is here. It depends on what Alfie wants to do next week. It might get to a point where there's maybe another opportunity elsewhere. We don't want to drag it out forever with Alfie. He is welcome to come back next week if he'd like to, but if there's something else elsewhere, then we can live with that. I guess part of the problem we've had with Alfie is, in the games we have played, we've seen a lot of goalkeepers with the ball at their feet and they haven't had much else to do. So that has been a difficult one to assess, and of Nathan Ferguson he has this to say. With Nath, we will see where he's at in terms of what he wants to do. I thought he played pretty well when he came on against Reading, which was really good. We couldn't get him any minutes last week, which was frustrating, just because of the nature of the game against Crawley. We will see where Nath is. If there's nothing with us, hopefully it has put him in the shop window for clubs to come in and see how well he has done.
So that sounds, doesn't it, like a very measured, diplomatic and pleasant way of saying that these two guys are not jumping straight into the squad. They're not even coming on the books, that they can stop by for training next week. But if something better comes along, then Pompey will say, go for it, and thank you for your time and effort, and presumably some sort of pay packet if you're on trial with a championship club. I don't think they do it voluntarily. I don't know. So some useful pin money for those players. And as Musino put it, they've been put in the shop window a little bit. They've been given a particular value by a good quality championship club and a very, very good quality, possibly better than championship manager. So that could be of use to them, and he stresses that. But it's interesting, isn't it, the goalkeeping situation. Pompey seem to be intent on having 4 goalkeepers on their books for the start of next season, the coming season. Partly because it will make their training games, their 7-a-sides, that much more plausible, because there'll be a proper goalkeeper at either end on both pitches. But what it means is that at the moment, if you count Alfie Whiteman as being on our books, and you remember that Stuart Moore went with the squad to Slovakia, so he was obviously under serious consideration for this tricky role of the 4th goalkeeper with Pompey. So you've got in the building, if you timed it right, you could have met 6 goalkeepers. Nico Schmidt, Ben Killip, Jordan Archer, Stuart Moore, Alfie Whiteman, and if he's down from Scotland for the weekend, Toby Stewart. 6 goalkeepers. I mean, I know Stuart Moore has been let go, but one has to then wonder if the reason for that is entirely down to the fact that he doesn't quite fit the bill as a keeper, or has it to do more with the fact that he doesn't want, and maybe Alfie Whiteman also finds it difficult to be the 4th keeper. It's not a great deal that you offer a footballer, a goalkeeper, that he will be 4th in line, in his own mind, if nothing else, because he's the last recruit, for a spot which is such a specialist spot that nobody else can slide into it. It's going to call for a certain type of individual to live with that. I think John Major, who's he? I think John Musino may have said something along the lines of, look, to each of them, Nico Smith is our number 1. The number 2 slot is up for grabs. And of course, Nico will probably, if we're lucky and he's lucky, play all of our league games. There will be minor cup competitions when we may move things around a little bit, but we'll only want 1 of the 3 of you on the bench on Saturdays. So somebody is going to have to get used to the fact that they've got to climb up a pecking order if they're going to stand any chance of being the first pick on a Saturday, unless we get horrendously unlucky with injuries, which sometimes we do, but it's a long shot. So there's an enormous amount of diplomacy necessary in acquiring a top-class keeper. Okay, maybe not quite top-class keeper, otherwise he would be holding down a steady place somewhere in the slightly lower reaches, League 1 or League 2. But a good quality keeper nonetheless, who will kind of know that he has nothing more to offer, albeit a something, than making sure that all the 7-a-side training matches are properly staffed by the guy in the different coloured vest, the goalkeeper. Good luck to John Musino with that. Good luck if it had been John Major. Don't know where that came from. Anyway, onwards and upwards.